into the chapel to participate in the service. He tried to picture a likely occasion, Christmas perhaps, or Harvest Festival, but the memory eluded him, and he realised suddenly that Prue was speaking. "Sorry," he said, "I was miles away. What did you say?" "They've converted the first floor, beyond the gallery, into an alternative therapy centre. You know, acupuncture, homeopathy, rebirthing." What on earth, he wondered, was rebirthing? But he did not ask. Prue would have told him in far too much detail. "Maddie's been there," she said, "for her hay fever. She swears by it. She even went away with him on a sort of weekend retreat." Maddie was her friend, a solicitor given, Ramsay thought, to weird fads and enthusiasms which seldom lasted. Still, he said nothing. He had learned, during his life with Diana, the value of strategic silence. Prue pushed open the door into the health food shop. Late afternoon sunlight slanted through a stained glass window onto sacks of grains and pulses. There was a display of organic vegetables, misshapen carrots and potatoes still covered in soil, and shelves of spices. Prue shopped enthusiastically, asking occasionally for things he'd never heard of, topping off her order with wholemeal flour, free-range duck eggs, and yoghurt made from goat's milk. "What about you?" she asked. "Isn't there anything you need?" He shook his head. He did his shopping at Sainsbury's, and though he ate well enough, convenience mattered more than the way the food had been grown. He looked around the shop, wondering why he found this temple to culinary correctness so depressing. Perhaps it was because the two members of staff seemed so unhealthy. There was an obese woman whose weight seemed pulled by gravity to the lower half of her body. Her head was a normal size, but her buttocks and legs were enormous. She presided over the bread and carrot cake, and there was a weedily malnourished young man with staring eyes and a shaved head. Then another assistant appeared. She must have been reaching to fetch something from behind her counter. She walked out into the central space and stood, caught for a moment in the multicoloured light, almost posing, as if to prove to Ramsay the benefits of healthy eating. She had dark hair, pulled back into a smooth plait, and olive skin. She was tall and strong, and though he knew he was staring, he could not take his eyes off her. As bad as Hunter, he thought. Hunter, his assistant, insensitive, prejudiced, and lucky not to have a disciplinary charge for sexual harassment on his record. "Isn't she a beauty?" Prue whispered, and he gave a little cough as if he'd hardly noticed. Then he watched as she stretched up to reach a jar of coriander seeds from a high shelf. She was wearing a loose T-shirt with wide sleeves, and as she stretched, the sleeve fell back to show a bare brown shoulder. Still, he could not turn away. She walked back to her counter, and he saw that she was wearing sandals with leather thongs across her toes, and her feet were very long. She weighed a small amount of the spice on old-fashioned scales, tipped it into a brown paper bag, and handed it to a customer without a smile or a word. Ramsay turned his back on her deliberately. He opened his arms to take the bags and sacks piled on the counter beside Prue. That night, he went home with Prue. He allowed her to cook a vegetarian meal for him, and even admitted that he'd enjoyed it. When she finished work at the old chapel, Lily pushed her bike out of the storeroom at the back of the building and began the ride home. She was angry. Sometimes she thought she was born angry. The lingering memory of her childhood was of an impotent rage, released occasionally in temper tantrums. A 5-mile bike ride was the last thing she needed after a day on her feet, and her fury was directed temporarily against Sean. He should get off his backside and earn some money. Then perhaps they could afford a car. Then perhaps they could move away from Laverock Farm and find a place of their own. The road was steep and narrow with overgrown verges, and for several minutes she thought of nothing but keeping the bike upright and getting to the top of the hill. She had to get off there to let a tractor pass in the opposite direction. She feared that Ernie Bowles might be the driver, then saw that the tractor was spanking new, and the man in the cab was young, with a Walkman plugged into his ears. Peter Richardson from Long Edge Farm. Thinking about Ernie Bowles made her angry again. Her face was flushed from all the exercise, and she realised that hot tears were scalding her cheeks. Bloody Ernie Bowles, she thought. What a bastard that man is. The farm was up a track, so potholed that she had to walk it. She wondered sometimes how he made a living. Did he have any regular income, apart from the rent they paid for the caravan? When they'd first arrived, they thought the place was magical, old-fashioned, like something out of a child's storybook. No factory farming here. There were hens scratching around the yard, pigs in a sty, cows waiting patiently to be milked. They had thought Ernie had taken a...